Alrighty. Here we are. We are back with another episode. Why did I watch that? We scoured through and we looked through to find a good movie to pick. And as we were going through the Rotten Tomatoes list and we were looking for some movies that had low ratings, we came across a movie that shocked us both, that it was actually even on the list. We discussed it and we decided this would be the movie that we would watch. A Low Down Dirty Shame. Keenan Ivory Wayans, Jada Pinkett Smith, at the time just Jada Pinkett, Sally Richardson.
Sally Richardson.
This is, without a doubt, I have to say honestly, it's probably one of my favorite movies. I did not remember how much I loved this movie until we were sitting and watching as I was watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Charles S. Dutton, who many people remember from the TV show Rock. Andrew Divoff, who is just like one of the greatest villains. And because it was one of those like really believable villains, not like a stereotypical TV villain, larger than life. This was somebody you could like put your hands on and get to. But it's getting reviewed today because this movie got a 0 on the tomato meter. Goose egged.
There's a hater born every day. That's all I have to say.
I mean, how? But it's kind of funny because it is worth noting that 0 on the tomato meter only comes from 21 reviews. Roger Ebert. Everybody knows Roger Ebert, right? 2 thumbs up. Siskel and Ebert back in the day. Roger Ebert says, here is a movie about guns. Take away the guns and the movie would be about nothing much.
I want to review his review.
Hurtful.
His review sounds like he didn't watch the movie.
Clearly, he did not watch the movie.
He looked at the cover. That was it. He looked at the cover and he was like, it's a movie about guns.
That is absolutely fair. This is Rita Kempley, Washington Post. And in fairness, this review is January 1st, 2000. So it's not like this is a recent review. But it says, Wayans isn't sure whether to send up Shaft and Company or simply to remake the action thriller. The result is an embarrassing compromise.
I'm embarrassed for her.
Again, she did not watch the movie. But yeah, I'm not going to listen to these critics because clearly they have no idea. And this is crazy because the name of the show is Why Did I Watch That? And I can tell you exactly why I watched this. This is a fantastic fucking movie. It's crazy because this is
what it's about. You got to tell the people.
Okay, so Keenan Ivory Wayans is a private investigator by the name of Andre Shame. Little trivia for you there. His name is Andre Shame. You see it on
because they never say Andre. They
never say. They only call him Shame. But he receives a check at the beginning, and when he looks at the check, it says right there at the front, Andre Shame. So that's a little help you out with that. But he's a private investigator, basically like a disgraced police officer. Go back to like Bad Boys where something happened and he went out the country to chase the bad guy. It didn't go well when everything
people died.
People died. And ultimately he got framed and blamed for everything that happened. That is the basis of our movie. Sometime later, he finds out there's an opportunity to take down the guy that ruined his life. He may not be dead. And there's our movie.
Pretty much.
There. First thing, what do you want to touch on first?
It's very hard for me that this got a 0 because a lot of elements of it were very like Die Hard-esque to me. And I felt like it could have very easily been Bruce Willis. Well, not with all the jokes, but the action sequences. And Bruce Willis does do, a little bit of jokey joke. So
right.
I feel like they were just too hard on it because it was Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Any Given Sunday isn't very different from this movie.
No. There was
And
I mean, Sally Richardson alone. And don't get me wrong, I love Jada Pinkett, especially a young Jada Pinkett. But
oof,
any person you put in a movie and every time she's on the screen, she has her own song. So you know she coming.
oof. Sally Richardson is just
Best line in the whole movie. The
Okay.
whole movie, she had the best line.
Now, Sally Richardson, while there's no question that Sally Richardson as Angela was a draw for the movie, personally, you talk about that young Jada Pinkett. Oh, that was it right there. Like, you had just the idea of being able to watch Peaches on screen for this movie sold me on the idea of watching this movie. You know, there were a couple of jokes in the movie that probably didn't age well.
There was a lot of jokes in the movie that did not age well.
Well, first off, in fairness,
some of the people that graded it in the 2000s, I'm like, but did you really get it? Did you really know? And some parts did really feel like an extended living color episode. So like, I understand, but a zero.
Well, there's a lot of movies that don't age well.
Yes.
So in fairness there, the fact that some of these jokes wouldn't fly today just means we won't get a remake of this. We won't see Shame coming back to meet his son or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But there's a couple of things. There was one scene in particular that comes to mind. I remember them kind of predicting the future. We didn't know at the time that they were predicting the future. The character of Peaches, played by Jada Pinkett Smith, turns around and says, "Ooh, you know I like that freaky shit." In 2022,
we know she liked that freaky shit.
We know Jada liked that freaky shit. So I can't help but to wonder, was that an ad-libbed line? Was that written in the script, or was that just her automatic response and it landed so well they kept it in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's where it is. Because if you've watched any of her Red Table Talk,
it's stretch, not at all.
So maybe that was an ad-libbed line. And she was like fresh off of A Different World at this time. She had done maybe, I think, The Inkwell and like Jason's Lyric were the only movies that she had under her belt at this point. She wasn't like a big star yet. Mm-hmm. So this was a great starring role for her. And I fell in love with that character of Peaches. Charles S. Dutton as Sonny.
You hear me? Acting. He was great in this movie.
Truthfully, I really believe he brought a lot of the star power to the film.
Oh yeah, back then.
And he legitimized this as a film, as a movie. Whereas, you know, Keenan Ivory Wayans was primarily known for comedy. He had done like I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and that was like the most that people could put under his belt. That and like you said, Living Color. This movie, it was actually put out by Hollywood Pictures, but it's kind of funny because Hollywood Pictures doesn't actually show up in the opening credits. Like normally you see like New Line Cinema and all of that type of stuff. Yeah. It's almost like they ain't want nobody to know.
And that's a shame because the plot was good. Like you followed it. The story was very linear. Like
it was very easy to follow. It made perfect sense. Everything was, I mean, it was a by the book action thriller.
Yes.
You know, I can't sit here and be like it was just the greatest, but nothing about this movie was bad.
Well,
very little about.
I have one thing, and it's okay. So nitpicky. It's very nitpicky.
No. By all means,
but this was one of my favorite soundtracks ever. Like I remember the track listing. Like number 3 was Silk, Deeper. Number 4, Homie Lover Friend Remix, R. Kelly. Love the soundtrack. The movie, you briefly hear a song in the background for like 2 seconds. I was like, could they not pay for the song? what is happening? It would just kind of, if you know the music, you hear it. But other than that, other than, Angela's song, whatever that music was, you don't really hear any music in the movie. And that was kind of, you had some time. It felt like somebody would turn up the stereo a little bit and then turn right back down. And I felt like it wasn't interjected in the ways that it needed to be effective for such a great soundtrack. I mean, you had
Right. This was this
there,
CD. This CD was probably as popular, if not more popular, than the movie at the time it came out.
And you got to think too, like you couldn't stream stuff back then. You couldn't just type in like "Homie Love and Friend" the remix. That was only on the CD. Like you had to get the CD to hear that.
I got one from that soundtrack. Foo Schnickens have a song. Do you remember Foo Schnickens? They have a song on that CD, and at the time, R. Kelly being on an album. Now it's 2022, but this is 1994.
Yeah, that was.
And there was nothing bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Zane doing the intro, doing Shame, the remake of Shame. That was by itself. That was a single, and it was actually a pretty big album at the time. So like, yeah, I will agree with you. And then the soundtrack needed
Oh, go ahead.
The soundtrack needed a bigger presence in the movie that it was a part of.
And the other reason, I mean, I love the movie. It's baffling to me that, and I know it was for comedic, purposes, comedy relief, but the fact that he included like openly gay people in this movie, like that was a big thing back then. And like, yeah, it was funny, but an interracial gay couple at that, like.
And just to go even further, even though it was played for laughs, if you go back and this is one of those things, like having recently watched it, he had his own feelings in regards to the way, like, okay, so there's a scene in the movie where Shame gets jumped. He shows up at Peaches' house and she's like, tending to his wounds and whatnot. There's a nightgown scene. She walks off and she's like, you can sleep in my roommate's room. He's going to be out. The next morning.
There's no he.
Right. Okay. You can sleep in my roommate's girlfriend will be gone.
Yeah, because he said, are you sure your roommate's going to be okay if they wake up
finding a tall black man in the bed? Like if girlfriend finds a tall black man in the bed, upset is the last thing.
Yep.
So it's all about the vernacular and the wordplay, and again, it's actually really well written in that regard. So the next morning, Shay wakes up and he's like apologizing to the person in bed next to him. He's like, hey, I'm really sorry. I hope you don't mind me crashing here last night. Things got a little rough. And Wayman, the character, wakes up and he's like, oh no, I don't mind. I mean, the most flamboyant person they can get. And it's such a great, it's a legitimately funny scene because you can see it's a misunderstanding, not actual anger.
Mm-hmm.
It's followed up later on. There's a scene where Shame is actually trying to track down somebody because as a private investigator, part of his job is to locate people. So he finds the person that he's supposed to locate, which is character Angela. He goes to track her down. He finds that she's in this spa. He goes into the spa, and it turns out Wayman works in the spa. The interaction between Shame and Wayman at that time totally nullifies any negative feelings you would have had from the beginning because he literally talks to Wayman like a person, like a human being. There's no malice in the context of the conversation, and genuinely they're friends. There's another scene. He's at a club, and Wayman makes a comment that like that looks like Shane, but no, that can't be him because he don't look that good. Like because Shane is like he's shaved and he put on the right clothes and he's dressed up. He's looking nice, and they're in this club and everybody's dancing, and Wayman is like, he's getting it on the floor because I mean he is like jamming.
Go Wayman. Go.
I mean, like got the whole little circle built around him and everything. And there's a moment where there's about to be some gunplay taking place, and another really funny line in the movie. Shame is talking, so like you have to watch the movie. I'm not going to break down the whole scene, but he's like, I don't care about her. She gave me my number 555-1234.
I'm a Scorpio. I like Chinese food.
Now I walks on the beach. He's like, shut up, call me. Just a fantastic scene. It's totally hilarious. But seeing that holding this woman hostage is not going to get over the shame. You see Wayman again coming to the scene, and he looks over. He recognizes now that is in fact Shame. So he yells out from across the club, "Shame, hey!" And so the bad guy,
Mendoza,
looks over, realizes that, okay, you don't care about this girl, but there's somebody you know, an innocent person. I'm going to shoot him. And Shame does the whole like slow motion dive the way of the bullet, and the Academy Award for the like. There's so much. Even what would have been played for laughs was still done in a way that I feel is respectful and humorous, and it is genuinely humor and not at the expense of the person, but because of the person. Mm-hmm. And I think that really makes a difference. And even in 1994, when this movie came out, Keenan Ivory Wayans was obviously much more progressive and took that into account and did a great job with it. Yeah. I have a nitpick with the movie. It's a very, very small nitpick, but I have a nitpick with the movie. This movie was probably like, I need to look up the rating on this movie because it wasn't rated R. And they got Sally Richardson in a bra. And she delivered one of the best lines in cinematic history, when she's talking to Charles S. Dutton. He's trying to convince her to like give up the money, and she's like telling him like, hey, you know, there's
because he walks in and
he says something. What is it about you that like, drives men wild?
And I'm looking at her like, look at her.
She unbuttons her jacket and she says, I guess you're just gonna have to find out. And Charles S. Dutton, like, and I love this was like true acting because my man sat there. And you can see every thought that went through his mind. You talk about my man was about to risk it all. You can see right there he was about to risk it all. And I just, at the end of the day, I wanted just a little bit more from Sally Richardson's character than a sex symbol.
I'm fine with it.
No, hold on. Understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was perfect for the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. It was perfect for the movie. And she, she had the little moment with Shane where she was talking about her dreams and hopes and aspirations and whatnot. And she was going to take the money and run. But every time it came back to her, she was basically just trying to like use her sex appeal to get her way. And if she, I mean, when you look, I get it. Okay. Let me just say, I understand. Like, I understand. I get it. I'm just saying I wanted more. They gave Peaches such great development as a
character. That's why they did that. They wanted a clear choice. And I like that too. Like, it wasn't
okay. You know what?
Richardson rejecting him. He rejected her and he actually went with the better woman. They needed Peaches to be the strong one, to be the one that's not all about how she looks. Because Jada Pinkett is fine. They boomeranged it. That's all they did. They do the boomerang. We had to like Sally Richardson. You know what I mean?
You know what? I guess I don't have a problem with this movie then. Because now that you point that out, like I've always taken away from that movie that deep down he just really fell for Peaches, that she was a person who showed him genuine concern, whereas Sally just kind of like was an opportunist. Like Jada said, you ain't nothing but a gold digger. You know what I'm saying? And once upon a time, being called a gold digger was like the biggest insult. Yeah. Ooh, what did you call me? A gold digger? Oh, no, girl, like we finna go to blows. But now that's one of those things where it's like, there's probably some forms of pride that goes with you would
There
probably.
definitely is, unfortunately.
So I've always looked at it from the standpoint that he chose the person that basically chose him, whereas Sally Richardson's character of Angela was always an opportunist and was always just selfish and looking out for her best interest. The insight you just provided, I guess I don't have a problem with this movie. This is
Yeah.
a good movie. I
Because
tell you,
she did
why I watched
want him.
this.
Because she could have dipped. And she went ahead and went with him to have his back. She asked him to come with her, and he was like, "You got a choice." And she was like, "Okay, just promise me you'll smoke him or whatever." So she could have just dipped out, been gone when he saved her. So,
but see, the fact that he was going and at that time, and again, you're just gonna have to watch this movie because I would sit here and do a play-by-play, scene-by-scene for the whole hour and a half of the movie and just tell you everything that happens because I really feel like it's a great movie. It does not deserve a 0 on the tomato meter, and I'm disappointed with all 21 people who reviewed it and said that. I'm gonna have to say, why did I watch this movie? Because it was a good damn movie.
It was a good damn movie.
And it is a low down, dirty shame, and it got a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes.
It was a good damn movie. So watch it. Watch it.
We're actually going to recommend this one. Go watch Low Down, Dirty Shame. You can
prove us wrong.
If you have, you know what? After you watch it, if you think we were wrong and there was an issue, put it down in the comments. Let us know. Let us know. Tell us what you thought. I liked it. She liked it. Low Down, Dirty Shames. That's it. Any last thoughts?
Sally Richardson.
Peaches. She liked that freaky stuff. That's what I'm closing out with. All right, we out here, y'all. Peace.